Radio, the #1 independent radio station in South Florida. You are now tuned in to K1NG Radio, the #1 independent radio station in South Florida.
Yeah, I never seen the fucking pink one or the orange bowl. I'm tripping.
We're good?
If I had it.
Yeah, buddy. Welcome back. Sports Talk with Joey T and June live. K1NG Radio, Miami's #1 independent radio station, home of the independent artist. So where we start off our sports world today. Last night, between college basketball games, they came out and announced the college football playoff rankings. And they opened surprisingly with Ohio State at 1, LSU at 2, Alabama 3, Penn State 4. Clemson, you see at 5, Georgia 6, coming in 7 is Oregon. So, June, who's the shocker in it? Was it Ohio State at 1, or what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Ohio State going to 1 is kind of shocking in a sense that, you know, all season they've been playing really good, solid football, winning their games, dominating opponents. We look at, you know, Wisconsin game, they handled their business. That was probably their best team to date that they've played. However, you know, LSU jumping Alabama was kind of surprising to me, being the fact that, you know, it's Alabama. I didn't think that they were going to do Alabama like that. They go and give Ohio State, they go and give LSU the #1, which they, you know, well-deservingly. Joe Burrow's putting up Heisman numbers this year. They beat Florida. They go and beat Auburn. They're handling all their business. They beat Texas in a good game. And, you know, for them to be the #1 team, I respect it. They're playing in one of the tougher conferences in the country, and you know they're going to play Alabama this year, so it'll be like the toss-up.
Saturday, they go at it.
So that's going to be interesting. You know, you're going to see. I think the winner of this game should be the #1 seed or the #1 rank in my opinion. But I can't argue too much against Ohio State. Usually they're the ones getting kind of shitted out with these rankings. So it's up to them to play Penn State coming up this Saturday as well. I think this is rivalry week coming up. And, you know, they're going to be able to play them and really determine, all right, are you guys a #1 team for real? And then finish off the season versus Michigan, which shouldn't be a problem, never is. Michigan can't ever beat Ohio State. Now that Urban Meyer's gone, can Harbaugh beat, you know, their new coach? That's up to them. But a little surprising that Ohio State did jump up to 1. But if they do finish out strong versus Penn State and Michigan, I respect it. And, you know, the winner of the LSU-Alabama game falls at 2. And then, you know, I don't think they should be penalized. The loser should be penalized outside of the top 5.
So much to be seen this weekend. Let's see if Ohio State and Penn State has a shaky game. You can see LSU and Alabama jump and stay in that 2-3 spot, even with one of them losing.
Because, you know, Alabama has Auburn left, really, other than LSU this year. They're going to play Auburn down in November, but in late November, should I say. But that's really it. LSU don't have too much going on with their schedule. They got to play Ole Miss. And that's really it. Texas A&M, that'd probably be a decent game right there. But, you know, if LSU beats Alabama, don't be surprised if they do jump back up to #1 just because of that strength of schedule and you know, them playing those SEC tough teams where Ohio State, as opposed to them, is playing the, you know, Big Ten, and Michigan State's not having a great year. Michigan's on and off, and then, you know, teams like Wisconsin, they got blown out. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'll be back. I got a bunch.
Now, right now, Clemson is at 5, and they are sitting outside that top 4 spots. You think they could squeeze their way in if they get a couple big wins?
The thing with Clemson is that they haven't been as impressive as of last year as last year. They're still, winning their games by a lot. I do get it, but they did play a close game versus Syracuse, where they lost versus Syracuse, and then they played a close game versus Wake Forest, where they only won by 2 touchdowns. Their Virginia Tech game, 31-17. It's not like, and then they played Auburn and won 14-6. So, you look at their schedule and the way that they're winning these games, they're not, oh my God wins. They didn't blow out Florida State, which I would assume they would have, the way they did, Georgia Tech. But listen, if Ohio State wins this week, if LSU beats Alabama, I don't see Alabama and LSU falling out of the top 5. And then you got Penn State at 4 right now, which if they lose to Ohio State, they'll probably drop. And then you got to look at Georgia. You look at Georgia and, their schedule and who they've played and what they have still. They went ahead and beat Florida, a good Florida team nonetheless. I understand that they have backup quarterback in there. They beat a good Florida team. They beat Notre Dame, which was a really good game. And they've dominated everybody else that they've had to. Now, they still have to go on and play Auburn.
But their one loss came to South Carolina, a shitty team. So that's going to be hard. They have the worst loss of the one-loss teams.
Yeah.
So, Georgia lost versus South Carolina. Oregon lost versus Oregon. That's a quality loss.
Right. Oregon State. I'm sorry, you said what?
Oregon lost versus Auburn.
Okay, Auburn. You said Oregon lost to Oregon. I was like, what?
Oklahoma lost versus Kansas State. That's a bad loss. So
Yeah.
I don't see a one-loss team get in this year unless it's LSU or Penn State, Ohio State loser.
Or Alabama. Alabama, or LSU loser, or Penn State, Ohio State loser. I don't know if it's going to be interesting to see, say Penn State loses, where do they drop out to, Are they going to have that room to kind of fight back in? I don't know if they have to play. I'm not sure if Penn State has to play Michigan still. I think they already played Michigan. Let me see. They only have to play Indiana and then Ohio State and Rutgers. So if they lose this game to Ohio State, this is kind of going to be their season. In my opinion, it should, because I think that if they want to make the playoffs, they're going to have to make a statement. And if they can't even beat Ohio State, who their biggest conference rival would be, then I don't think they deserve that shot in the playoffs, and I'm sure the committee would feel similar to that. But that Georgia loss to South Carolina was kind of bad. It's an SEC opponent. It was a road game, I believe, or was it no? It was a home game. I think they lost at home, Georgia. But nonetheless, they had no business losing to South Carolina. Ohio State, LSU, Alabama, and then it's funny. You'll probably see Clemson in that mix. Clemson's probably going to find their way back in there. The committee knows that Trevor Lawrence is, one of the more popular dudes. But what kind of got me was Oklahoma's loss to K-State. Like, I understand that was a bad loss, but Oklahoma's been playing very good, very, very good football. Jalen Hurts has been playing, Heisman type of football as well. And for them to just kind of get bumped out at 9, they went ahead and they took care of business every other week. They just have no strength schedule. They don't have a tough schedule. They didn't play a lot of good teams. And then to go and, let Kansas State put up 48 points on you. I understand you were on the road, but listen, if you're going to go out and start scoring, you better score more than the next team. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We got a few more weeks to talk about this. Obviously, next week is going to shape up a lot more. And we'll get into that probably on Wednesday.
Yes, definitely. We'll grab some college football from over this weekend and get into that. But let's keep it pushing along. Last night, our Miami Heat at 3-1 travel out west to start a West Coast trip. Losing an ugly game.
Yeah.
109-89 at Denver.
Jet lag?
Hey, that trip to Colorado is no joke. If you've ever taken that flight, by the time you get there, your ass just wants to take a nap.
That's true. And I'm not going to sit here and blame it. Okay, they wanted to say that the Rockets had the South Beach flu. They came in. They were off Saturday night. They had to play an early game on Sunday. James Harden and Russell Westbrook played probably their worst game all year. Russell Westbrook played one of the worst games in his career versus the Heat, and everybody was calling it the South Beach flu. Hey, Mile High, they were part of the Mile High Club last night. Obviously, the air was too thin out there, and we didn't put together, a proud effort, I'd say. It wasn't something where it was more bad basketball than like effort. Where the Rockets, when they got blown out by the Heat, it was like 41-17 in the first. It was just pure effort, shot selection, and how they were playing the game on defense. But this team, the Heat, we had a good scoring first quarter, played very good defense in the first quarter. We were a tough team, stayed with them. However, the time went on, and it looked like the legs kind of got from under us. And they were trying. They were missing shots. Kelly Olynyk had a poor shooting night. So it was just a mixture of probably the travel and then, the Nuggets being a pretty good team at home that helped win. But, the Heat are kind of focused on beating the Suns team, who's sitting at 5-2 right now as well, on Thursday night. And then they got to go to Friday. They got to go to L.A. on Friday night and on a back-to-back and take care of the Lakers.
Now, Jamal Murray put up 21 points, which gets me kind of hot because how between all the guys we have playing at the point guard position does nobody stick him in this man?
Yeah, and when you got Justice Winslow playing the point guard, Tyler Hero's been playing pretty good defense. Goran Dragic is a solid defender. He's never been great, but if you have to stick Jimmy Butler on him for a couple possessions, you got him right. You got to use it where you can. But listen, like I said, it wasn't something where you look at the team and you're like, all right, where was the effort? This team has no heart or anything like that. It was a tough game that we had to play. And hey, but it was good to see Justice Winslow back in the lineup. Good to see Derrick Jones Jr. back in the lineup from that groin injury, healthy, rising up. We see through his dunk. Tyler Hero got his first dunk of the season yesterday. That was kind of a proud moment as a Heat fan. But when you let them go ahead and outscore you 29-20 and then 31-21 for 2 straight quarters, never going to turn out well for you. Jimmy Butler shot 3 of 12. And then I want to see Kelly Olynyk's shot line. He was only 4 of 8, excuse me. But Jimmy Butler, at 3 of 12, and then Bam Adebayo at 2 of 9, 6 points. He couldn't even get the assist. He only had 3 assists. Not going to win that game versus the Joker and all. So
playing at the pace that we've been playing, top 10 pace team. Then we head out west. We kept it close the first half. After halftime, Mike Malone stepped up the tempo, which is very Mike Malone-like. But this West Coast trip is going to determine a lot in how well we play going forward. I think it's going to be a litmus test and tell us how we're going to do for the rest of the season going forward.
Yeah, like you said, Mike Malone's not usually playing the fastest team. The Nuggets are typically move the ball around till they get the best shot. But I'm sure that they felt the fatigue in Miami and brought it out second half and exposed us with that. This West Coast trip is going to be a big deal because we're playing some good teams. The Suns are a really good team this year. Starting off the year, obviously we're 7-8 games in, but the Suns are playing some of the best basketball in the league. They beat the Sixers, so we kind of got to respect them as a good opponent until we beat them, and then you got the Lakers and it's LeBron and AD. So
the Suns are going to play tempo basketball. Devin Booker put up 50 points the other night. But sticking with basketball, let's talk a little college basketball. They kicked off just the other day. And what we saw was, last night, number 3 Duke took a 68-66 victory over number 4 Kansas as Duke put their...
Number 3 Kansas lost to number 4 Duke.
There we go. So Duke and Coach K put the freshmen out there on full display. Played some good defense. Cassius Stanley scored 13 in the second half.
Yeah.
He came out big.
Solid. And, Duke came out. Obviously, it's the new age college basketball where you got to get familiar with these players again. We don't know these players because they come out of high school, they go right to the league. They come out of high school, go right to the league. Cassius Stanley is going to be a good guard at Duke, and he's going to play really good basketball, meaningful minutes. But I think a lot of it is going to be on the shoulders of Trey Jones, just as far as leadership and defense, implementing that. He's not one of the bigger guys on the team, but he definitely is one of the big-hearted guys, and he has a lot of defensive presence. He's a big defensive presence, But I'm excited to see Vernon Carey Jr. more and more this season as well.
We heard his name called a couple times last night, playing good both-way basketball.
Yes, sir. And then, this guy, Devin Dotson for Kansas, he had a pretty good game. Um, so he's a sophomore, actually. He's not even a freshman. And he came out and scored 17 points. But Coach K, he gave his credits to Kansas, and he said, those are that's a championship contender, which they are. And Duke is going to be a championship contender as well. So I'm just excited that college basketball is back to, we're just back. March Madness will come up later in the year, but for now we're going to watch these these games that they feel meaningless sometimes. Champion Classic and all this, but at the end of the day, you get to see where your team's at versus the other good teams, and kind of put yourself up to comparing, who you're going to be looking out for in the tournament and stuff like that.
Me personally, I like college basketball because the crowds are so much different than you see in college football and whatnot. But let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little NFL injury. Who's not coming back this year? We'll talk about that when we come back. Second consecutive season. Right back after this break. Sports Talk with Joey T in June. Live, KONG Radio, Miami's #1 independent station.
You are now tuned in to K1NG Radio, the #1 independent radio station in South Florida.
A wise man once said, faith without works is dead. Take heed.
Passion to furnace, max pain, feel it burning. Celebrate how they slayed it. Real thoughts, be creative. Things change, don't hate them. Struggle first, gain patience. Murder rate going greater. Though we focus on the paper, then we need a translation. Tell me why these people higging me. Cause your freedom could be taken. Thank God for your family. Four flats, keep you down back. Raindrops where the clouds at. If everyone to call out, who will never get a call back? Fake love, what you call that? Mood swings, not a ball back. Never panic cause you sing fast. Wake up, then the dream lasts. Faith and works, they word. No fade, one word. Yeah. Oh, nah. If rain was my pain, I'd be soaking wet. Faith without works don't get you to the check. Look in the mirror, double check yourself. Cause when Mama leaves, I won't be nobody else. Hey, can you point me to a different route? Wait, make up your mind, either you're in or out. Hey, can't touch your blessings, what you worry about? Hey, go for the cheese like a human mouse, yeah. Anything is possible. Hey, never been impossible, no matter what you're going through. Oh, nah. Slow to speak and quick to hear. Treat this knowledge like a gift. Who gon' give you spending money? Who gon' purchase all your gift? Backwoods costs in the trees you be rolling up. Half on a baby when it's something you ain't ready for. Hustle on the regular, find different revenues. Cops be harassing us, stay from off them avenues. Positive the attitude. Sky is the altitude. Can't obtain anything, please don't let them lie to you. Seatbelts on with some homies that are right for you. Everybody working in your circle so unstoppable. Parents taught you everything, time to be responsible. Oh, nah. If rain was my pain, I'd be soaking wet. Faith without works don't get you to the check. Look in the mirror, double check yourself. Cause when Mama leaves, I won't be nobody else. Hey, can you point me to a different route? Wait, make up your mind, either you're in or out. Hey, can't touch your blessings, what you worry about? Hey, go for the cheese like a human mouse, yeah. Anything is possible. Hey, never been impossible, no matter what you're going through. Oh, nah.
Yo, soon it's poppin'. Shit, I'm about to get up right now, man, so you can get to it. Just been going through a lot, feel me? Hungry for this. I'm gonna fuck with you though, put you in a few.
Trans on the track. That's right.
Crashing, niggas running miles, they be dropping. Watch out for the shoe, they be copping. Always running miles, they be wildin'. Always jump a dime, they be crashing. Running mouth, yeah, they going out. Niggas talking about how they got a clout. Yeah, I got a dream, that be on some lean. Niggas talking how they got a dream. From new moves, why you lose? Bitches, yeah, they dead on you. Niggas always talking about how they always.
You are now tuned in to K1NG Radio, the number one independent radio station in South Florida.
Welcome back. Sports Talk with Joey T and June live. K1NG Radio, Miami's number one independent radio station, home of the independent artists. We got NFL news. Cam Newton is officially on the injured reserve list, so he will miss his second consecutive season due to injury. Now this time, it's a Lisfranc Frank fracture, which is a fracture, basically a big fracture of the bone down the middle of his foot. Now Cam was the 2015-16 MVP. Was not playing to that level this year. Maybe it was a previous injury that he still had going on. The shoulder stick going on. But since being out and Kyle Allen replacing him, the Carolina Panthers have been one of the best teams in the NFL, winning 5 consecutive games.
Kyle Allen. And now they're faced with a couple tough questions going into next year. I think it brings the question up because Cam Newton's going to be a free agent in 2021. He signed through till 2021. So he has next year and he has the year after that, and then he'll be a free agent. However, Kyle Allen over here, he got the job after Cam Newton was benched in a sense. It was an injury. He wasn't healthy coming into the year. The Panthers wanted their season to be hopeful, right? Panthers didn't want to go out this season and say we're going to start the season with Cam Newton on the IR and give him, relax him through preseason, relax him through the first 8 games of the season. They didn't want to do that because, you got to understand, Kyle Allen probably wouldn't be playing this good if he had to start week 1. I know he came in like week 3, but week 1 and week 3 is a big difference when your team has seen what they can do. The defense, you know what I mean? You know that you kind of can't get worse than what Cam Newton was doing. There's the standard is low, so what Kyle Allen does good is going to be glorified. And then it's just, can you sustain it? And we saw him play good. He went to London and played good with the help of his best friend, I'm sure, who is right now, McCaffrey, playing lights out. He's probably second in the MVP right now, behind Russell Wilson, in my opinion. But, with the help of McCaffrey and these guys playing really good, they're playing solid defense. They're winning some games, and they're still holding it down for their division. Obviously, the Saints didn't freaking miss a step when Breeze went down, but that's why they had Bridgewater. But back to Cam Newton, this brings up the question is what are the Carolina Panthers going to do with him at the end of this year? Do they trade him for value? Do they want to give him another shot? Do they think they can truly win with Kyle Allen?
At 30 years old, I think Cam Newton's days in Carolina are pretty much over. Now, because Cam Newton and Kyle Allen are two completely different quarterbacks, Cam's more athletic. Kyle Allen is showing you that you can play a plot and dink and dunk offense. He's not making the throws Cam's made. He's not rushing out of the pocket, busting a big run. He's not going to have that athleticism, bust out the Superman move, and rip his jersey open like Cam did for so long. But I think, personally, Carolina's trying to move Cam at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I think personally Kyle Allen is a guy. Especially he has this team right now. The locker room is behind him, coaching staff's behind him. With Cam Newton, I think Carolina's issue, because like you said, he won the MVP in 2015. He went to the Super Bowl 2015. Unfortunately, played the best defense in the league, and Von Miller happened, and also Peyton Manning happened, but Cam Newton came in the league, and this Carolina Panthers team wasn't necessarily cultivated for him specifically. And I think that's where they kind of went wrong, because if you look at Lamar Jackson and what he's doing, Lamar Jackson's the best quarterback out of the group that came out in 2018. We're talking Mayfield. We're talking Josh Allen, Josh Rosen. Who else am I missing in there? There was Allen, Mayfield, Rosen. Darnold was the second quarterback chosen. And nonetheless, so the Ravens go and pick him, and Harbaugh knows we got to make this team his team. We got to base it around him. We're going to have to play to his play style for him to be successful. And they didn't do that the night of the draft. But once they realized that Joe Flacco is on the way out, Joe Flacco is not going to be the guy anymore, i.e. Cam Newton right now, in his predicament with Kyle Allen. They're going to have to start shaping this team around Kyle Allen the way they didn't do it for Cam Newton. And what the Ravens are doing with Lamar Jackson and running the ball and making this team a super run-heavy team, they still have a great defense, and they're making him make the easy throws. And when he makes a play, he's making a play because he's that talented. It's not like they formed it around him to where, now he's making plays because this is just the team is for him. No, he's a great player, and he went into Foxborough. Let that be known. He went into Foxborough, Lamar Jackson, and took that W. But that's all because the team is around him. The team is built for him to win. And Carolina kind of messed up Cam Newton's career. They wasted some years out of Cam Newton's career with trying to make him something he's not. I understand that he was running the ball a lot. He led quarterbacks in rushing because nobody was doing it like that at the time as well. But at the same token, they wanted him to make more throws than use his legs, and they didn't base the team solely around him. Also, Christian McCaffrey would have been a very nice help back in the day. I know he had D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart, but I don't know, man. I think Cam Newton can still find success elsewhere. I think he can, sign with a new team next year if he's going to come back 100% healthy. And, some teams will really, really look good with him. But, his days are definitely done, like Deion's days in Miami.
Definitely. So, that's going to wrap up Sports Talk with Joey T and June. We'll be back with you next week. So, keep it locked here. K1NG Radio coming up after us today. Juju's dropping a new video mix on you, and he's going to have a special guest today. So, make sure you have all your social media locked into K1NG Radio. Make sure you got that Android and the iOS app all registered on your phone. And we're going to get out of here now. Yeah, buddy.
You are now tuned in to K1NG Radio, the #1 independent radio station in